will be really awesome. Okay, awesome. So as I said, I'm Caleb Kiprotich B. I'll be your mentor in this specific journey of you guys becoming a world-class project managers. So yeah, it will be a 6 weeks course. You'll have 6 hours, 6 hours, 6 contact hours, or 6 lecture contact hours with me. Then we'll have 10 hours of discussion forums, whereby we'll just be going through some of the aspects of agile methodologies and things of the sort. So for the meeting expectations, I expect that since this is an online edition, you are going to ask questions in the chat, whereby if something is not clear, I expect to ask questions in the chat box. Mute yourself when you're not speaking, just to avoid interrupting the rest. Then have your videos on when you're speaking. So this is, if it's possible, you can also just have your videos on. If it's not possible, that's also okay. I have no problem with that. So yeah, the usual, ensure you're present, ensure you're critical, ensure you're curious, and always ask questions when something is not clear. So yeah, so these are the expectations. I'm glad I'm seeing some reaction on the some reactions. So I believe that we are all on track. So we are going to begin with a certain icebreaker. So for today, we'll have 2 icebreaker questions. They are would you rather questions. So for the first question, would you rather be able to see 10 minutes into the future or 150 years into the future? So this is just would you rather icebreaker question. So I'd like to just get some response from you guys. Will you rather be able to see 10 minutes into the future or 150 years into the future? So for this, I'll classify the two options provided as A and B. So the first one will be, would you rather be able to see 10 minutes into the future as A? Then would you rather be able to see 150 years into the future as B? So you guys can just provide your answers also on the chat box as we proceed. So will you rather be able to see 10 minutes into the future or 150 years into the future? So it's just an icebreaker question. There are no wrong answers. Yes, Husan.
Hi, teacher. I would like to answer the second, like, would you rather read an awesome book or watch a good movie? A good book that I prefer and suggest for my old friend is Atomic Habit by James Clear. It is a great book. I think I ever studied because of it. It tells you how about the method you can shortly method you can change your life and get a big result in the short terms in your life. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Husan. So you decided to provide an answer to the second question, and you've also given us a book to read. So I'm really grateful, and I hope your peers will also just ensure they read that specific book. So we can have Jawid go next. Jawid, mic check. If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Hi, sir. This is Javed Pajouish. Sorry, I joined a little late because I had technical problem. I'm also agree with the second question, but I prefer to go with good movies because we can catch the point by watching the best movies. In a short time, we can go with a long story, so it is easy to catch the full article about the issue.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you for that, Jawid. So you've said you prefer watching a good movie. So that will summarize maybe something that you will have read in an entire book. So yeah, that is awesome. Also on the chat, also you can see that we have some response from Saliha. Rather read an awesome book than movies. Okay, that's really great. Also, maybe just try and tell us why you'd prefer reading an awesome book than a movie. But yeah, that is also fine. So I'll select the final person, then we can close it. At that bit for our icebreaker. So the final person I'll be selecting is let me see, Diana. So Diana Mongina.
Yes, Caleb.
So kindly provide an answer to either of the icebreaker questions.
I think I will read an awesome book. I'll prefer reading an awesome book to watching a good movie. Yeah, I love reading books.
Okay, awesome. So thank you for that, Diana. We can have the final person. I see we have one person with their hand up, Marwa. So Marwa Mohammed, kindly proceed.
Yes, thank you, teacher, for giving me the opportunity. I would like to answer the second question. Would you rather read an awesome book or watch a good movie? I prefer to read an awesome book because of some reasons. First of all, I like reading books, especially I like reading stories. When I read stories, I can imagine those events in my mind, and it can help me to find more details about those stories. And I think when we want to read some stories or a book, we can it can provide us everything that we want, or we can visualize the story on our mind. And then I think watching a movie cannot offer us those things that we want, rather than reading a book. I prefer to read an awesome book than watching a movie. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that, Marwa. So you've given us a detailed explanation why you prefer reading a book as opposed to watching a good movie. So that is actually really good, in that we have just understood what you've said, and we have just gotten the gist of that. So thank you who has participated in the icebreaker. I am enjoying that you guys are really interactive, and yeah, you are ready to just share your insights on whatever knowledge that you have. So yeah, I'll be doing the same as we proceed in this specific session. So for the lesson objectives, by the end of this session, you'll have just known what basically project management is, what project management entails, the life cycle of project management. So yeah, you'll also get to know what is a project. Many people tend to confuse projects with operations. So you'll be able to know what a project is and what an operation is in an organization or an institution per se. So you'll also be able to know who is a project manager by the end of this specific module or this specific course. I expect that each and every person will leave with a certificate knowing that they are competent managers to just work on certain projects and lead teams in certain projects. So you'll also be able to know what is project management methodologies. We have things like Agile, Waterfall, Kanban, Scrum methodologies. Yeah, we're also going to be having a look at some of them, but we are going to intensify our studies into two specific methodologies. So that is Agile and Waterfall. That is for today. But in the upcoming sessions, I'll also be introducing you to Scrum methodology and how one maybe can run a short sprint using the Scrum methodology, and just ensure the sprint comes to a completion, and everything that was intended to be accomplished in that specific sprint is accomplished. So that will cover Scrum. We'll also be looking at how Scrum Masters just collect user stories, how to write proper user stories to ensure those user stories are communicated to probably developers. If you're in the software engineering field, if you're in the data science field also, you'll just be able to just capture those user stories and communicate and deliver them to the lead data scientists in the specific teams or areas. So after that, you're also going to go through Waterfall and Agile. So that will be the last bit of our on today. Then for next week, when we switch to LMS, we are going to look at other things. So the course overview, we are supposed to go through an introduction to project management. For those people who probably did not have a look at the course overview over the LinkedIn post that was shared. So we're going to go through introduction to project management. I'm going to provide you with a roadmap of what we are going to go through over the 6 weeks, sorry. Then I'm going to take you guys through also project initiations and project planning. That will happen in the second session. I believe that will be next week. Then we're also going to go through project execution and monitoring. Then I'm also going to take you guys to project closure. We are going to have a look at Scrum, as I mentioned. We're also going to have a look at Agile project management and also the IT project management tools that we have at our disposal. Then after that, we're going to have a case study and practical examples. Then for the final project, we are going to just study the GDP of probably Afghanistan. But yeah, we will know what to do when we get there. But yeah, that is the general gist of how our course will look like for the next 6 weeks. So I don't know if there are any questions at this point before I just proceed.
Thank you, sir. There is a question from Jawed. At the end of this course, do we will receive any certificate or something to certify the PMP or something? Or
There, Mr. Jawed, yes, for sure, we will provide a certificate from FEMSTIC for you guys. There is no problem with having certificate. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that question, Jawed, and that goes to everybody who probably had the same question. So I will proceed. So we're just going to be looking at what project management is. So basically, project management is application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activity to meet the project requirements. So it is the whole application of just trying to unify the resources that you have at your disposal. This includes the human resource, the financial resource, the tools, and the techniques that you have, just to ensure that you are coming up with you're meeting the requirements of a certain project. So a project might be, we might have a software development project, we might have a DevOps project. So the projects are usually wide. We're going to see what a project is as we proceed. So the objective of project management is to make final deliverables in a finite time and budget. So for project management, we usually have something called constraints. So time is one of the project management constraints. Remember, as a project manager, when you're given a project, you will always have a finite time. So this means that you'll have a certain start date and a certain end date. So your time will be monitored. So you will have to deliver within that specified time. So that is basically what we mean by finite time. So this now gets us to the project management constraints. As you can see here, I have a certain diagram. We have 6 constraints, which are the 6 constraints of project management. So we have time, we have risk, we have scope, we have resource, we have cost, and we have quality also. So maybe anybody who is willing to just tell us from the experience. I know most of us are actually project managers and we're just trying to upskill. So anybody who would like to tell us probably how resource affects project management, or how resources are constraint of project management. Anybody? Okay, so when it comes to resource doesn't necessarily, when it comes to resources, it doesn't necessarily tie the project manager to the human resource per se. For resources, when you talk about resources, this include people, they include equipments, they include materials and technology that we just require to complete that specific project. You'll find probably during the start of a project, during the planning period, whereby the project manager is given, let's say, resource of a team, let's say, is also given a budget. You'll find that the project manager clearly outlines that these resources will cover this specific period. But in between the project, you find that probably some of these resources, like for example, the skill resources, for example, we are human, you'll find that somebody shifts to another company and there is that gap left for the project manager to fill. So that is one of the resource examples that I can give you. When you talk about time, for time constraint, we've just stated that for a project, it usually has a start date and an end date. So for example, for me myself, I was working in hospital. We were building an HMIS system. So we had targets, we had deadlines, and we had a day to go live. So if probably you as a project manager, you don't monitor your staff well, or the team you're leading, you don't provide them with tools that will assist them to accomplish the targets of that specific project, you'll find that maybe you're lagging behind for a month or two. It's not bad to lag behind, but also just remember, you need to also communicate this to the stakeholders. But for the stakeholders, they usually are very strict, and they like doing things in a certain within a certain timeline. So that's where we have the time constraints. For quality, when you build a certain project, it must meet the quality that was agreed on and documented on at the start of the project. So mostly you'll find that it's not the project manager who normally checks for the quality of a project, but you'll find that mostly it's an external party or an external company. We have auditors who just come and try and see if you guys have accomplished what you intended to accomplish, and you've met with the stakeholders what the stakeholders want. So that's where quality comes in. For cost, I believe we all know what cost is. So for cost here now, we are faced with financial constraints. So for example, the budget of a certain project was supposed to be, let's say, $5 billion, but later on you find that you hired a lot of people, you bought a lot of technologies, you had to switch in between technologies, and that cost might go overboard. So in this specific case, you as the project manager, you just have to now reach out to the respective people, the CFOs, the people who are in charge of financing that specific organization, and ask for more. But there are limitations to this. You must provide clear and stated, you must provide a clear, detailed document of why probably you are requesting for more and why you're doing so. So that now covers the aspect of cost. Now for scope now basically, when you talk about scope, we're talking about the boundaries of a project. This includes specific goals, deliverables, tasks, and requirements. So you'll find that for scope, you might underestimate, for example, that specific project, and later on when building specific features, you find that you need maybe an expansion, or there is more to what you had requested. For scope, you might find you're adding a lot of other features. Let's say, for example, you're building a hospital system. You intended to just focus on the adults, but you find that you also have to include well baby in that, because we have children, and the model of treatment is slightly different for the adults. So yeah, that is a scope. For risk, so these are just risks that normally come up during the project period, or the project the project cycle. So for risk, basically it involves delays, increase in cost. Probably you had planned to buy a certain technology at a certain price, but during that specific period, the price hikes. So those are just risks. Risks are normally there on the project management cycle. So you as a project manager, you should expect to meet some of these risks. So I believe we've talked about those 6 project management constraints, but we are also going to see more of them as we proceed. So I don't know if we have a question regarding these project management constraints before I proceed.
Sorry, sir, there's a question. From these 6 constraints, which one is, the most important? Because, for example, we have cost or time or scope, and other quality like risk and resources. Which of them are very important?
Okay, yeah. Thank you for that question, Jawid. So we normally have this triangle, the triangle of project management cycle. So for this triangle, it usually states that the time, cost, and scope are the ones that are usually really important. And for this triangle, you'll find that for you to probably deliver a project in a really short time, you'll need to increase the cost, right? And also for that project to be delivered in a really short time, you probably need to have a clear and a scope that has been clearly outlined. So these 3 normally intertangle much, but yeah, I'd say the most important ones are the the time, cost, and scope. Because for quality, you'll find that probably it's linked to an external party. We'll have external auditors coming to see if the quality of that project meets the standards. For risk, these are just things that you'll encounter along the way. Then for resources, if we talk about human resources, this now affects the people team or the humans team. So yeah, generally I'd mentioned time, cost, and scope. But I also see we have a hand from Mohammed. I don't know, Mohammed, if you have something to add on or you have a question. So that is Mohammed Abdi.
Ahmad
If
Obid
you are speaking,
Asakel.
maybe you're still on
Asakel
mute.
said, do you have any question? I think.
Mohammed, maybe you can just proceed. If you have a question, kindly just also post it on the chat box. You also do the same for your emails and names. So yeah, so I'll proceed. So we're now going to look at what is a project. So most of us have probably encountered with projects. Maybe we have a volunteer who is willing to tell us their general understanding of a project. I know most of us have worked on projects before, whether it's in the software development field, whether it is in the DevOps field, whether it's in cloud computing or something. But yeah, what do you understand by the term project in your own words? Yes, Diana.
You could say an assignment given to you to complete over a specified period of time. That the assignment is usually maybe a project that you're building something, a recommender system. It could be different, just depends on the task at hand. But basically, it is an assignment that should be done over a specified period of time.
Okay, yeah, thank you for those wise words, Diana Mungin. So yeah, I see Shuhar. Apologies if I butcher your name. I'm still to learn your name. So Shura, you're saying a project is a temporarily endeavor undertaken to create unique product, service, or results. It has defined goals, a specific time frame, and typically involves coordinated efforts among stakeholders to achieve its objective. Yeah, sure. So that is actually pretty much detailed. So Diana, I see you have your hand up. You want to add something? Okay, awesome. So yeah, that is actually clear. So from the PMBOK, so this is just the project management boundary of knowledge. It defines a project as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So the temporary nature of projects indicates a beginning and an end of a project work or a phase of the project work. Projects can stand alone or be part of a program or portfolio. So generally a project, for you just to describe a project, you need to know that a project is temporary, first of all. Then the project usually has a finite timelines or a finite time frame, which is just that specific start date and an end date. So it has defined start date and end dates. And then for projects, we usually define it using a scope and some resources. Then for project, you also need to know that it is unique. So a project is unique and it's something that ends after a certain period of time. So Mohammed, you have something? Okay. So I'll proceed. I believe Mohammed is probably has unmuted mistakenly. So the difference between an operation and a project. Most people tend to confuse between what an operation is and what a project is. So an operation is a continuous effort of a business, of the business. Project is temporary. Usually both are simultaneous. So for operations, it is a continuous effort probably by the business to change something, to change certain automations, probably to just improve on their business, on their daily business operations. But for a project, it's something temporary and it's something that it usually has time frames. So as you can see below here, we have this diagram that just explains to us the difference between operations and projects. So for operations, you can see it's something that is it's something that is ongoing and it is infinite. But for project, it has a start date and an end date. Yeah, for project, it is finite. For operations, it is infinite. So basically, that is the main difference. So I believe that is clear to everyone. If you have a question, kindly feel free to just ask. Okay, awesome. So here we are going to be having a look at the project life cycle. So each and every project has a life cycle. For the people who are coming from data science, I believe you have the data science life cycle, whereby we normally have the start and the end of that specific life cycle. So I'll leave that to you guys because you guys have already, I believe, gone through that. But here we're going to be focusing on the project life cycle. So the first life cycle of our project, or the first aspect of this life cycle, we have the initialization stage. So for the initialization stage, it normally happens at the first point, whereby the project manager is given the specific project, and he or she is just supposed to go through that specific project and see if it is viable, if it's something he or she can work on, and if it's something that he or she can accept. So if in the project initialization stage, if the project manager feels that, yeah, this is a project I can work on, it is something that it can be executed, the project manager or the project manager will now accept that specific project and look for and assemble a team to just work on that specific project with him or her. So it is the initial phase, it is the first phase of a project, and it is the phase whereby the stakeholders now just present the project to the project manager. Okay, then we have the planning stage. So during the planning stage, here now the project manager has already assembled his or her team. They already know the project that they're going to be working on. They already know what the stakeholders want. So here now they just start planning. They divide now the tasks. They buy the required technologies and things of the sort. Yeah, and they also just outline the goals they need to meet at a certain point. So that is for planning. For execution, now the team now jumps into the actual work. They now begin just working on the specific task that they have been assigned by their project manager. So you as a project manager, you ensure now that your team members tasks to work on. So this will now take weeks, a few months, depending on the methodology that you guys are following. Then after that, we're going to be having project monitoring. Here now, the project manager just ensures that tasks have been, features have been created, tasks have been done, and also you can just use a KPI to track this. So for KPI, that is the key performance indicators. So you can have some key performance indicators. So when someone meets that specific KPI, you know that this task is done, and you move to the next. Then after now monitoring, we are going to be having now the closing or the closure. So here now the closure phase marks the formal completion of the project. So in this phase, the project deliverables are delivered to stakeholders. Now you as a project manager, you now go back to the respective stakeholders with now the deliverables that have been actually delivered. So you ensure you have those deliverables when going back. So this is just the general project life cycle that we have. So I don't know if we have a question. So yeah, the first project life cycle was initialization, the one we are talking about. So initiation, this is the step of checking the feasibility and measuring the worth of a project. So here, you as the project manager, you have the ability to decline that specific project at this point if it doesn't make sense from your point of view, and probably it's worth it. You have the ability to just reject it and probably tell the stakeholders to make changes or to update how the project has been structured before you accept it. Remember, when you just accept that specific project, you are now the stakeholders will now just expect that you deliver on that specific project. So the initial stage of the project it's really crucial for project managers. So we have now the second stage of the project life cycle, that is planning. So for planning, the planning phase involves making a blueprint of achieving the project objectives. So here you just come up with that blueprint of what should be achieved, how it's going to be achieved. You might also just formulate those specific KPIs for people to hit, and yeah, everything that will just mark that this specific project is over and completed. So that happens in the planning stage. So also in the planning stage, a project manager is also supposed to identify potential risks and also come up with mitigation strategies for those specific risks. So you find that probably we talked about risk. We might have a financial risk, skill risk. So yeah, you must take into consideration all those risks, so that you can just plan on how you might mitigate them if they happen along the way. Because trust you me, they will happen at one point or another. So after that, we have now the execution stage. So for the execution stage, this is the third stage. So the execution phase involves the allocation of resources and making of the deliverables. So execution now, it's a software development project. The developers now work on that specific project, and so on and so on. So if it's probably a different project but not a software development project, same thing. You have the people in your team working by executing those specific deliverables. So to hold them accountable, you ensure that they deliver on that. So this is for the execution phase. So the execution phase, it doesn't have much, but usually if there are any changes, the project manager is supposed also to communicate to the stakeholders to make adjustments to the initial plan that was made during the planning stage. So yeah, if probably there are some changes that needs to be done, it is better that you communicate to the stakeholders early enough, so that they don't hold you accountable when you get to closure and you don't meet the deadlines or timelines. So this is for the execution stage. Then we have now the fourth stage, which is the monitoring stage. So in this phase, it involves monitoring the project progress by just making adjustments to the plan if needed. So if probably you are running short of the deadlines and things of the sort, here is where you can just ensure that you're making those adjustments. You're also going to be tracking the KPIs of your team members, and you can also use the earned value management model just to try and monitor the progress of that specific project and to check if there are potential problems earlier. So that is for monitoring and control. I saw someone's hand was up. I don't know. Do you guys have a question, Diana?
No, I'm good. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. So we are going to proceed now to the next bit. So for monitoring, I've already taken you guys to this. It involves just the project manager monitoring and controlling the work of the project. So yeah. So for closure now, the closure is the final stage of the project where everything, including what went wrong and what went right, all through the process is summed up. So here you provide a report, you write a recommendation or recommendations on what probably would have been done better. You've probably managed to deliver all of the deliverables. You now just state that you've been able to deliver all the deliverables, and now this marks the end of our project life cycle. Okay. So any questions regarding the project life cycle before now we go to who is a project manager and what is expected from you?
Sorry, sir, there's a question. Is there any difference between life cycle, I mean, in Agile or Waterfall, or also they are the same?
Okay, so the life cycle is actually the life cycle is pretty much the same for most methodologies, but when you come now to the specific methodologies, we're going to see the major difference between Waterfall and Agile, and also we are going to see situations whereby you're going to prefer using, let's say, Agile as opposed to Waterfall. So yeah, but generally for Waterfall, the phases are normally pretty similar to the life cycle I've shown you. We normally have stages, but yeah, we are going to see that as we proceed. We are going to cover that before actually the end of the session. Okay, so any other question? Okay, so who is our project manager? Maybe you guys can also just tell me, who do you think a project manager is in your own words? Maybe some of us are actually project managers. So if you're also a project manager, just tell us, who do you think a project manager is? So in your own words, maybe just try and tell us who is a project manager. Yes, Masood.
Thank you, Caleb. As you have rightly mentioned, it is someone who is planning, executing, and closing the project. But actually, what I will say is that the project manager is the ultimate accountable person for the outcome of the project.
Okay, so thank you for that response, Masood. So yeah, you're pretty much correct. The project manager is the one who is accountable for the general project. So if probably there is some questions that needs to be, there's some questions or concerns about the project manager should be the first one to just answer those specific questions. So anybody else who wants to give it a try before we proceed? Okay, so a project manager is a professional responsible for planning, executing, and closing projects. So their primary role is just to ensure that a project is completed on time, within budget, and meets the desired quality standards. So yeah, if there's any questions about the project not meeting the standards, they'll be the first contact person or the first person to just be asked why probably why they did this way and not that way. So the project manager is usually responsible for planning, executing, and closing projects. So during the planning stage, the initialization stage, the project manager is also just responsible for coming up with the team that will execute that specific project. So if you need developers, you just look for developers at that specific point. If you need probably business analysts, if you need testers, if you need quality assurance officers, you normally now look for them at the initial point of specific project life cycle. So this is a project manager. The key responsibilities of a project manager, just as we have seen in the previous slide. First of all, we have planning. So for planning, they just define the project scope, goals, and deliverables to be met. Then they develop detailed project plans, including schedules, budget, and resource allocation. So the project manager also identifies and manages project dependencies and critical paths. So that is for planning. So during execution now, the core work or the core responsibility of project manager is to coordinate and lead the project team. So we have the team under the project manager, whereby probably they're trying to execute the deliverables and meet and deliver on the features. So the project manager coordinates and leads that specific team. So the manager also assigns tasks and responsibilities to team members. So you will be reporting, if probably you are now the project manager, you'll find that team lead, the lead developers, the lead engineers in that specific team, they will be reporting directly to you. And yeah, you will be holding them accountable. So how it normally happens, I believe there's normally a stand-up session each and every day for you just to hold them accountable. So we are going to be having a look at how those sessions should be conducted, how those sessions should be run, the duration of those sessions as we proceed. So we'll look at that when we get to the Scrum bit. So Scrum entails how those sprints should be run. We're also going to be seeing how you're going to be creating issues for them on Kanban, just to ensure that you hold them accountable, and you also just don't tire as you monitor them. So this is for execution. For monitoring and control, you as a project manager, you're just supposed to track the progress of that specific project. You're supposed to manage changes to the project scope, schedule, and cost. So if probably there's an increase in cost in probably some certain tools or technologies, and you're supposed to purchase them. So you're supposed to make those specific changes and requests. So for communication, in project management, communication is very key in that you will be constantly communicating to stakeholders. And also by stakeholders, I mean by stakeholders, for stakeholders, we normally have external stakeholders and we have internal stakeholders. So as external stakeholders now involves the investors, the people now, the people you're working for, basically. Then for, sorry about that, for internal stakeholders, we normally have now your team members, the people working under you. We normally have team members such as the CFO, managers who are responsible to just ensure that you are using the budget allocated correctly. So those are the internal stakeholders. For the external stakeholders, now we have the investors. So you will be constantly communicating with these parties. So communication is really, really, really key. By the end of this specific course, I'm sure we'll be able to we'll have learned how to communicate with those specific stakeholders and know when to hold them accountable for each and every action that they do. So that is for the responsibilities of our project manager. So I will pause there for any questions before now I proceed to what project management methodologies is. So I don't know if we have any questions. Okay, so thank you for that response on the chat. I see no more questions, so I believe we are proceeding on quite well. So now there's this thing that we call project management methodologies. So we have a set of methodologies that we normally use, I believe, in project management. This will now answer Jawid's question. I believe your question was related to some of these methodologies. So project management methodologies is a set of principles, tools, and techniques that are used to plan, execute, and manage projects. So project management methodologies help project managers lead team members and manage work while facilitating team collaboration. So in these specific methodologies, it's just an easier way to, easier method. There are methodologies, there are tools. There are easier way to assist us as project managers to just track probably the progress of a project and to see if probably certain tasks have been executed and to manage the progress, the project in general. So we are going to just dive into some of those tools. So one of the methodologies that we have the waterfall methodology, we have the agile methodology, we have the Scrum methodology, we have the project management body of knowledge methodology, which is also known as PMBOK. Then we have the Kanban methodology. So these are the 5 methodologies that we are going to be going through as a class, but we also have other different methodologies. So just a moment. So some of these methodologies include extreme programming. We have things like lean methodology. We have the Six Sigma. We have the Prince2. We have the critical chain project management methodology. So yeah, there are actually numerous methodologies, but you as a person now, you as a project manager, you're supposed to know which is the best methodology for you to use, and probably you are also supposed to differentiate between the traditional methodologies and the new methodologies that we have on the market. So you as a project manager, you are supposed to just know this before even the project starts, so that you can know which methodology to use. So I'll share a certain resource here. I'll paste it on the chat box. You guys can just go and read more on the other methodologies. But for these 5 methodologies, these are the ones that we are going to be focusing on as we proceed. So yes, do we have a question?
So there is a question from these 5 methodologies. I think it depends to the country. For example, for the Afghanistan situation, least developed country, which one is very suitable? Which method?
Okay, so for me, I'd say I've used Scrum, I've used Agile. I'm yet to use Waterfall, but the one I'd advise, if you're probably working on a software engineering project, Agile methodology will work pretty much well for you. Kanban methodology also, that will be okay. Probably you're working on a software engineering project, but for Scrum will be best if you're working on a short sprint. So let's say, for example, you're working on a 2-week sprint, on a 1-month sprint, Scrum methodology will be effective for you. For Agile software engineering projects, Agile methodology will be much better for you. I don't know if that answers your question, Jawid.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's clear for now.
Okay. Okay, depending now on the country, maybe I'll do more research on that and see probably which one fits Afghanistan more. But for us, personally, I'm in Kenya. We normally use Agile and Scrum most of the time. Okay. So what is Waterfall? So the Waterfall project management method is a linear step-by-step approach that's ideal for projects with a clear scope and a predictable timeline. So for Waterfall, as you can see here, it is a step-by-step approach that is ideal for projects with clear scope and a predictable timeline. So probably if you can predict your project might run for, let's say, 2 years, yeah, you can use Waterfall project management methodology. So it involves a rigorous planning upfront to ensure that the project stays on track, with progress tracked closely and ensures addressed promptly. So basically, it is very rigorous. It involves rigorous planning. So as you can see up there, we've been told that the project, for you to use the Waterfall project management method, you need to have a clear scope. So for you to have a clear scope, it means that your planning should be very effective. So the Waterfall model usually includes 5 project management stages or phases, like the ones we had seen previously. So we have initialization or initiation, then we have planning, then we have execution, then we have monitoring or control, then we have the closure or closing stage. So pretty much the life cycle that we had seen at the start of our session today. So the Agile project management is a flexible and interactive approach that enables teams to quickly adapt to changing project requirements and deliver high quality results within shorter timeframes. It is often used in software development projects. So if you're working on a software development project, I'd advise you to use Agile. So Agile methodologies are about teamwork mostly, customer satisfaction, constant refinement, and breaking big projects into bit-sized pieces. So for Agile, for software development project, let me just approach it this way. For software development projects, you'll find that most, if you've been in the software development field, you'll find that you can't handle a whole system by yourself. You can't build a whole HMI system by yourself. So that is a health management system. So in this case now, you will need to collaborate with different team members or stakeholders who are developers as yourself. So for that now, Agile now comes in handy because it gives us the provision of just collaborating with each other. So if you're a software developer, probably you've encountered with the Git version control. So you've encountered with Git. So Git is just a version control that most software developers use. It also has the Kanban methodology or system whereby you can just assign certain issues to certain people. You can assign certain problems to certain people and so on. So basically, for Agile, I believe for software it will work pretty much if you're building a software development project. So I will proceed. The difference now between Waterfall and Agile. So we have the difference in roles. So for roles, Waterfall strictly assigns roles to project team members with specific duties and responsibilities defined for each team member. So that is for Waterfall. So in contrast now, as opposed to Agile, Agile methodology empowers team members to collaborate on different aspects of the project over time, leading to a more self-organized structure. So for Waterfall, it strictly assigns roles to project team members. Then for Agile, it at least provides a collaboration platform. So it empowers team collaboration on that. So for planning, in Waterfall, planning is a linear process done at the beginning of the project with all requirements and objectives laid out in detail upfront. As opposed now to Agile, planning is a continuous process throughout the project life cycle with adjustments made as new information and requirements emerge. So that is now for Agile. So in planning, we've seen the two differences. For linear process done at the beginning of the project. For Agile, planning is the planning is done continuous in a continuous process through the project's life cycle. So those are the main difference. When it comes to scope now, waterfall methodology generally discourages change to a project scope, even with the change requests used correctly. So that is for scope. As now for Agile now, actually the waterfall methodology generally discourages changes to the project scope, even with changes requests used correctly. So this is because the methodology has an extensive amount of time in the beginning trying to get the plan right. So we as we stated earlier, for waterfall, the scope needs to be clear. So planning will take a bit of time just to ensure that the plan is gotten right and correctly. So Agile is more adaptable to changes in scope, with the development team able to adjust quickly to requirements as the project proceeds. For time frame, waterfall methodology is designed for long-term projects, while Agile, however, is used for short-time iterations to deliver value repeated rapidly, allowing team members to adjust plans over time and achieve short time frames. So that is for time frames. So this is the major difference between waterfront and Agile. I don't know, there are other differences. We have numerous differences. I'm also just going to share another resource whereby you can go through those specific differences. We have a lot of them. So I'll share a resource whereby they have just clearly outlined the differences between and Agile. So allow me to just have it on chat box also, so you can also have a look at that. So yeah, we've had a look at the difference between waterfall and Agile. Now I'll give you guys an assignment. I just want you guys to just go and research when it is appropriate to use Agile as opposed to waterfall, and vice versa. So when is it appropriate to use Agile? We've seen some of these specific pros of using Agile as opposed to waterfall. Things to do with, like, for example, if you're dealing with a short-term project, it is advisable that you go with Agile. So I'd like for you guys to just research on this. I'd like for you guys to just go and research and see when it is advisable to use Agile as opposed to waterfall, and vice versa. So this is the assignment that you guys are going to be doing. Yeah, and I believe you'll deliver it before we meet next, which is next week. So when to use Agile as opposed to waterfall. So I'll pause there for any questions before I hand it over to our host.
Thank you, Mr. Kalib. How we deliver, our assignment, by sending by email or how?
Okay, so for this specific assignment, I'll need you guys to just send it to my email directly. But as from next week, you've had the communication from our host that we are going to be moving to LMS. So yeah, for this specific assignment, I'll need you guys to just send it directly via email. So I'll share my email also on the chat box. Give me a second as I do so. So there's no need of making slides. Just create a Word document, then have them there, then send it to me. Okay, awesome. So you're requesting for the slides. Yeah, I'll be sharing the slides. So yeah, I'll also be sharing the slides. I'll also be sharing a certain form for you guys to just fill. The form will just be, the form is actually to just collect feedback on how the session was, probably how you felt the session was, what needs to be improved, how we can handle the sessions moving forward, yeah, and things of the sort. So I'll also share a certain form just as a feedback form for you guys to just fill, and so that I can get to know if you guys are on track or what are the next steps. So yeah. Yeah, I'll share the slides. I believe I have your emails. Believe the host did capture your emails. Yeah, I'll be sharing the slides to those specific. I'll be sharing the slides, yeah, to those specific emails that have been shared on the chat box. So yeah, that is it from me. I don't know if our host is around. James Tech, mic check.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalib. I think there is no question for today. For the assignment, maybe the participant can share by our email, so we will pass it to you.
Okay, yeah, sure. So you can share using the Femi's Tech email, then I believe I'll get it from them. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for also participating and being interactive. So bye guys.
Thank you.